Welcome back, Homebodies. Thank you so much for coming back for another video. So grab your coffee, grab your tea. This is going to be a long, detailed video. Homebodies, I'm not going to ramble. I'm gonna get into a couple of topics. I know I haven't done a home update in a while, and I really did want to sit down with you guys and kind of go over in detail why I've taken so much time to get certain things done, and also the method behind the madness, because sometimes it could just seem so long and drawn out and misunderstood, and it's just not making sense. So today's video is to make sense of it all. So first things first, we're going to talk about placement furniture. I know this might sound a little bit weird, but what I've learned is sometimes I can't really see how the room is going to get laid out until I put furniture in the room. A lot of designers do this. With some clients you can get away with this, with some clients you really can't. And for me, with some of the people that have solicited my services, this is not an option. Like, I have to be able to come up with the design, install it, and be done with it with no additional expenditures. Well, with my own home, that is not the case. So what I've done is I've bought furniture, I've thrifted furniture, I bought inexpensive furniture, like that's a bookshelf from IKEA and that's thrifted, and that blue pillow is from HomeGoods. And what I have done is I have laid out my living room in about 3 different furniture placement patterns. At one point I had 2 very large couches facing one another with 4 end tables. That was not the design for us because it cut off the flow to the kitchen. I've also done furniture placement where here on this back wall, the couch, there was a couch there, and then there was a couch on this long wall. I didn't like the furniture placement there. So a lot of times it can become extremely expensive if you go and spend quite a bit of money on a piece of furniture that you're really not in love with, and then now you're faced with having to find a seller, recoup your losses. I mean, you can't get shipping back, period. You just can't get that back. But you know, you are really faced with trying to find a particular market for the items that you had made specific to you, and finding someone else that is going to enjoy that item the way that you had it made. So one of the things that I have done is really taken my time to figure out what works best for my family. And the layout that I have now works best not only for my family but for me visually, and I'm very satisfied with it. So which brings me to the next topic, which is budgeting. This seems to be the hardest thing for people to do. A lot of times I've noticed that people will say, I need you to help me get a budget. I need you to tell me what I'm supposed to spend on any particular project. Well, here comes the disconnect in the communication right here. Like, this is usually where the design stops, because I'm not going to give you the information if you don't have the money. Like, seriously, because at that point I'm the only one out of money, not you. You're not out of anything. But how did I come up with a realistic budget per room and then decide what part of the design I'm gonna implement first? Well, first things first, let's go with flooring. Flooring was definitely one of those things where I really had to come to myself and realize that my lifestyle does not match up to the function of the flooring I wanted to choose. So for quite some time, we kind of just, I'm an abrasive cleaner. Let's start there. I'm a very abrasive cleaner. I like my bleach. I like my Odoban. I like my hospital grade, you know, sanitizers. Like, I'm that type of cleaner. So with that being said, there are some products that you cannot use those items on. I am completely against steam mopping any floor because it not only separates that material, but now you're having to replace that in less than 2 years. So I'm not one of those kind of gals, and then I'm also not one to wet mop or quick shine my floor every other week and then strip it and then redo it. Like, I'm not her. So I was faced with having to find a product that was not only going to give me the aesthetic I was looking for, but then the functionality of my actual life. So I had to go on a hunt and figure out what was going to be best for us. Now, as we've come to know, I am a commercial interior designer. And one thing about commercial settings is that when you get ready to pay for flooring, it's gonna be cheaper because they're making the money up in quantity. And with residential, it's gonna be a little bit more pricey because they're not making that much money on quantity, and you're not gonna replace it for another 6 to 10 years. So realistically, they have to charge at a certain price point in order to make it make sense for them to be in business. So that was a huge shock to my system, because here I was thinking like, okay, well, if I'm paying for this in commercial, clearly I can get for residential for the same amount, and that is not the case at all. So initially when I started looking for flooring, one of the things that I had to learn was in residential, they charge you for delivery, they charge you to move furniture, they charge you to uninstall, they charge you to reinstall, they charge, like, when I say it is a nickel and dime process, it is a legit nickel and dime process, which is also why I never wanted to spend that much money on furniture or collect a lot of things, because I was not going to pay you an extra $500 to move my furniture. And then with the size of my house, I plan on covering a little over 2,000 square feet. So it was already going to be an expensive thing. Excuse me. So with that being said, this is how I figured out how to prioritize my budget, and then how to prioritize the phase of design that I wanted to go into, which is the next topic, phase of design. How do you pick the phase to match up with the budget? Now, the three most expensive things that you will ever do on the interior part of your home are changes to the floor plan, flooring, or any damage incurred by an act of God. What does that mean, by an act of God? That would mean a pipe bust and the house is only 2 years old. There's no way for you to know that that was going to happen. That means that the AC unit just completely blew up and nobody anticipated that. Or weather permitting, and they take off, like, you know, you have monsoon weather and the siding off your house comes off, you know, a dog runs into your garage, you know, the likes there have you. Changes to the existing floor plan will always be the most expensive thing that you can do. Not only does the end user incur all of the billing for removal, for disposal, and things of that nature, you also have to pay for the product and then pay labor to have that product installed. And the best way I've learned to deal with large construction is to realize that I am okay as a designer working in a construction zone. I, however, am not okay living in a construction zone. So this was really easy for me to decide and say, okay, well, we're not, like, no, I'm not dealing with a crap ton of people coming in and out my house. I'm not dealing with 30,000 different tradespeople. Like, my design went from all the way up here to like this, sis. It was depleted. And the reason why is because I didn't want all those people coming in and out my house. And one thing that is extremely common with this type of tradesmen that are capable of doing the job, they are drug addicts. So you don't know who you letting in your house. And you don't know what spirit is tracking through your house. You don't know what they got on the bottom of their shoe. Like, all of that is a hard pass for me. So it was really easy for me to dictate what I was willing to deal with and how long I was willing to deal with it. Now, if you're a person that doesn't mind all those things, then by all means, do what you think is best. I ain't hurt. So, this is how I learned what I was willing to spend, how much things cost, and what phase I was gonna do these things in. 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, so after I found out that once I had about 6 or 7 different people come out and quote me just at a estimated ballpark figure for my flooring, I was able to then decide, like, okay, this is generally how much it costs to cover 2,000 square feet, period. And there's a different charge and a different price for doing stairs. I had no idea. I literally only have 4 treads, which the builder included, and the rest of them are just regular pine. And for the life of me, I just couldn't figure out, like, what the heck? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? So the first 2 years, I really spent researching just on product alone. I was not necessarily looking to install right then. I was just trying to survey the market and see exactly what I was willing to, well, for one, I needed a reality check. Let's start there. Because nobody in a right mind is going to install flooring at 2,000 square feet at $1,500. Let's just be real. It's not gonna happen. The second thing I needed a reality check on was how much the product cost. And for what I wanted, it was all between $12,000 to $25,000 at 2,000 square feet. Not just 1,000 square feet, but 2,000 square feet. There needs to be a reality check. Nobody's going to sell a complete 100% wood flooring that has literally been honed out of a larger tree to me, whether I'm a designer or the actual resident homeowner, at $2-3 a square foot. That's just not, ain't nobody doing that. Not even floor and decor, okay? So I had to spend 2 years really getting a reality check and realizing, like, okay, first of all, in these upgrades that I want to do, how much of this money am I going to get back if I want to sell my home? Secondly, how much upgrading do I actually want to do? Whether I'm a designer or a homeowner, I have to be realistic about what I want to upgrade, how I want to upgrade, and how far I want to upgrade. And so one of the things that me and my husband both agreed on was the house still has to function. So for us, it was kind of like a no-brainer because I can't live in a unorganized house. I just can't do it. It's not in me. I've never had to do it. So the first things that I tackled were the closets. I had to tackle my storage. So the pantry and my master closet were the first two things that I spent money on. My husband, you know, he loves to sit outside for whatever reason. So clearly the third thing that we did was organize the garage. Another thing, within the first 6 months of us, you know, closing and moving into this home, I realized that I didn't have enough food storage and I needed appliances. Like, there was no need for me to go and buy a couch for the sitting area in my room, and I needed a deep freezer. Like, seriously, like, I had to prioritize, and it was easy for me to figure out what my priorities were because of how I was living in my home. And one of the things that I consistently do, as a matter of fact, you just saw it in my clean with me, is that I cook a lot. I have a lot of leftovers. These bougie people in my house, they really like a hot meal every, you know, day or two. So I have to provide that. Like, I got to figure my life out. So the first 3 purchases I made were a refrigerator for the garage, a deep freezer to go in the garage, and then I replaced my main refrigerator in the house with another refrigerator because the other one was entirely too small. It didn't give me enough storage. So when you guys are going about figuring out what you want to do, it is always wise, in my opinion, to start with the things that you're going to use the most of. For me, the kitchen is the most used area in my house outside of my bathrooms. So the refrigerators and the deep freezers were definitely an absolute deal breaker for me if they didn't get done. The third thing that was an absolute deal breaker for me were the closets, meaning the pantry and my master closet. Those were absolute deal breakers. I was not budging, and my husband was going to hear it until they got done. Now, with these being my deal breakers, I was also confronted with figuring out who was going to do the work for the best price possible. Not the cheapest, not the most expensive, but the most economical, meeting in the middle, and I could actually see their work. Now, one of the things that I literally just touched on was I didn't want any and everybody walking in and out my house. My wainscoting was definitely something that was another reality check about the way I was going about remodeling and the way that I was dealing with tradespeople. Both of my grandfathers were in construction, and my family kind of balances between construction and transportation and logistics. And it's so common to take a verbal agreement in these trades, because it's so much work that has to get done in such a little amount of time. You don't always have time to reconcile and send off a updated contract at that moment. Sometimes you only have like a split-second decision. You have to figure out, okay, can you do the load or can't you do the load? Can you include this while you're, closing up the wall, or can't you include this while you're covering up the wall? And it's a yes or no, can you, can't you, will you, won't you? And you rectify later that night or even later that week, depending on what your schedule is, and then billing goes from there. And one of the things that I had to learn is that in residential, that is not always the best thing to do. In commercial, I have never had this issue. I've never had a problem working from business to business where I took a word of mouth agreement and then that person or company did not hold up their bargain. I've never had that issue. Whereas in residential, I was completely confronted with this left and right and left and right and left and right. And so one of the things that my grandfathers both told me was, whomever you hire to do the job can do the job. They don't need you to tell them how to do the job. And my grandfather on my dad's side was definitely colorful at the way he came at me about it. And he said, "Are you not the designer? Are you not the artist?" I said, "Yeah." He was like, "So do you need somebody to tell you how to be the artist? Do you need somebody to tell you how to bring their dream about?" I said, "No, but I mean, no, I just don't. Like, no." And he was like, "Okay, nobody in construction needs you to tell them how to do their job either. Either they can or they can't. Like, they don't need you standing over their shoulder babysitting them, you know, the entire time while they're working." And in commercial, this philosophy worked perfectly. I was able to effectively communicate with all of my tradesmen, painters, construction, carpentry, framer, you name it. I was able to apply this with no issue and rectify our contract and accounts before the end of the week. Residential, I got played so hard. I can't even begin to tell you, I cannot begin to tell you how imperative it is to put everything in a contract. If they cannot agree to the terms of the contract, don't do it. Do not do it. As a matter of fact, before I invite you to my house, at this point in the game, before I invite you to my house to even do the free consultation, I want your bonding insurance, I want your license, and I want to know whom is coming to my house, and I want their resume. Why is this imperative? It's imperative for two good reasons. Number one, your homeowner's insurance. There are parts of your policy that will be immediately made ineffective if you DIY a project. If you take it upon yourself to go and change out your faucet, that is now an absolute no-no. Your plumbing now is not warranted and it is not covered any longer by your homeowner's insurance. Had no idea. Had no idea. The second thing is that you're gonna repay for this. Like, point blank period, you're going to pay royally. My aunt used to always tell me, if you do it right the first time, you don't have to keep coming back to do it over and over and over again. And it wasn't until the wainscoting that I learned that I not only have to have a contract, but I also have to have pricing. I need to know the difference between material and your labor. And I no longer do a fixed fee on anything. If it's cost plus, bump it, I'll pay it. It is what it's gonna be, okay? And the reason why is because we paid $3,500 to get this done, okay? I now have to take off all of the wainscoting that I had done, 100 linear feet, and I now have to not only rebuy the product at the tune of $700, but I also have to pay an additional cost for labor and what other materials that I do not acquire the first go round. And I also have to pay for disposal at the tune of $250 to get the dumpster. So all in all, I'm already in $1,500 and the work hasn't even been done yet. On top of the $35 that I've already paid. Was it $35 or $31? I think we'll just settle at $3 grand. So at this point, I'm already in $4,500, just at the bare minimum of $3,000 of what I've already paid at fixed fee pricing, along with to uninstall it, dispose of it, and then have it reinstalled, not even including labor. I'm already in at $4,500. Thank God, praise the Lord, it is only walls, and your warranty, the warranty on your home, a new home, and your homeowner's insurance will not be affected by drywall. Praise God on that. But when it comes down to anything else, we can't take those chances. Electrical, you cannot take a chance. Your homeowner's insurance, if they see that you've installed a breaker box, if they see that you have tampered with the city's electrical box, any of those things that have been tampered with by the homeowner automatically voids portions of your homeowner's insurance. Not just the warranty, your insurance. And you will have to come out of pocket and pay for that yourself. So sometimes it may seem a little bit more laborious to stop construction immediately, write this down, date it, sign it, and go from there. But you will save yourself so much heartache and pain in the long run by literally stopping and saying, okay, I want to add this, can you do it? Yes or no? Yes, I can. Okay, well, let me go revise the contract, print it back out, and sign it. Oh, well, no, I'll do that when I get back to the office. Okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow with this contract in hand. Go ahead and rectify the contract and send it over to me, and we'll finish up this job from there. Do not do a handshake word of mouth agreement ever in residential, okay? Don't ever do it. And the reason why I brought up why I asked for your bonding, licensing, insurance, and a resume is specifically because had I asked for that with the wainscoting, I could have easily just filed a claim with his insurance, had them come out, investigate, go over this, and we would have been done. It would have, his insurance would have covered it. They would have sent someone else out to rectify the situation, and it would have been a business-to-business transaction, and it would have been done. But because he not only had his business license suspended, which I found out after the fact, and if you don't have a business license, you can't get business insurance. And if you don't have business insurance and you made off with my money, I can't take you to court at this point. I can't take you to small claims court because as a homeowner, it was my duty to vet this person before I brought them to do any work. So it was a complete learning experience, but this is why I'm trying to encourage you guys through, these home updates to understand, like, okay, at one point I was absolutely gung-ho, let's get it done. I just want it done, and we can be done with it. No, we are well past that phase. No. In commercial, I will continue to uphold the values that my grandfathers taught me and that have been staple business practices concerning commercial clients. Residential, I hold you to the cross. I'm gonna nail you to the cross every single time. My contracts are tight. I do not do any work that is not outlined in the contract. I do not allow any work that is not outlined in the contract. I no longer pay any additional fees if it's not in the contract. So at the end of the day, if I have to pay cost plus to get something done, simply because I want, like at this point, it might have been a 2-day install, and now we're on week 6. and that's because I keep making you stop, rewrite the contract, stop, rewrite the contract. I would rather do that and know that all of this is insured and it's on paper than to, you know, take the philosophy of assuming you're going to rectify and be honest with me. Also went on like Angie's List and trustdale.com. Those are okay sites. I don't dispute the Trust Dale challenge, and I don't dispute the Angie's List and vetting people. But one thing I found out is because they went to Angie's List and Trust Dale and got their stamp of approval, they charge a 30 to 60 plus upcharge on all their services. So they can literally have C work and charge a A-list price simply because of them being vetted through those two companies. And I feel like that's garbage. I know for a fact that I can go buy the supplies and I can go get the dumpster in order for you to use whatever it is that you're going to use, because I'm a part of the trade. Granted, my trade discount might not be what your trade discount is, but I no longer allow any contractor to buy any supplies. No, I don't allow them to buy anything. So with that being said, and another thing that I learned is I no longer let contractors throw anything away either. I don't let nobody throw nothing away. And the reason why I had to learn this the hard way is because the guy that was doing my wainscoting was saying that he was throwing things away and he was taking it to another job. Or he was stealing product from another job and bringing it here and then butchering my job. Like, all these things determine the pricing that a contractor is going to give you. And if they know for a fact that you're going to also include any supplies, they could tell you literally, and this happened. They can sit here and say, okay, well, the products are going to cost me $1,500 and then I'm going to charge you another $1,500 for my work. Okay, so that's $3,000 worth of work, and come to find out, the supplies for the job was only $300. Am I upset that you needed to get your money? No, I'm upset that you lied about getting your money and how you got the money from me. So I really had to be extremely critical about the verbiage that I'm using when discussing what I want done and how I want it done. Just to be quite transparent, furniture will be the last thing to go in this house. When furniture is starting to roll in, that means there is nothing else that needs to be done. There are no light fixtures that need to be exchanged. There are no plugs that need to be added. The flooring is done, the painting, the wainscoting, the trim, everything is done. You never want to go and spend money on furniture first and risk ruining that furniture based on your ability to be patient and get these trades done and out of the way first. Now, it's different if, you know, you knew for a fact that you just couldn't afford to, you know, move your kitchen from the front of the, you know, the front of the house to the back of the house. That's different. I expect you to go live in your house first and then acquire these things as, you know, you see fit. But if you're in a brand new house like I am, it does not make sense to buy furniture first, then have tradespeople come in. It just doesn't make sense. At that point, the best way to go about figuring out your style and figuring out what to do concerning the design is to hire a designer, get a consultation, and just ask for her or him, let me be even, ask them to give you a realistic phase of design, buy the design from them, and then implement it yourself according to the wisdom of the designer. That will lay out, okay, well, this store, this price, this item. This store, this price, this item. I can refer you to this tradesperson. I can refer you to that tradesperson. Now, realize all of that information costs. It's not going to be free, and their consultations are probably extremely limited, and the packages that they offer will be limited. But at least you will avoid making costly mistakes because you just don't know. Like, if you're not a part of this industry, how would you know until you've made the mistake and paid for that mistake? Like, seriously. Now, if you have an unlimited well of money that you pouring out of, then by all means do what you think is best. But if you're like 95% of America and you have to budget and save and ask these kind of questions so that you ain't just running through your hard-earned money, then this applies to you. So I have checked off everything on my little list, and I hope this explains some stuff, but I discuss in the next video, because this is gonna be a part 1 and gonna be a part 2. I'm gonna discuss the difference between custom, semi-custom, and thrifting and upcycling, because that seems to be a real hot topic with people. Like, upcycling is the thing, like French country. And anyway, have a fantastic day, homebodies. I hope that you guys come back for part 2, which will be rolling now.